Hello, it's Louise at Spiral Bright Insight. I am a galactic and an intuitive astrologer, and I want to do what I'm intending to be a fairly short video just to share a few themes, energies, and insights about the upcoming new moon, which is in the sign of Cancer. It's on the 25th of June. It's at 11:31 a.m. in the UK, and it is when the sun and the moon both join together at 4 degrees 7 minutes of Cancer. So we are just sort of coming hot on the heels of solstice, and I know a lot of people watched my solstice video. And there's a lot of sort of crossover, similarities, duplication in this new moon chart compared to the solstice chart. So I'm not going to go into a huge amount of depth, but there are a few things that have changed and a few things that wanted to come through in this particular video. So just to quickly, before I show you the actual chart, we are obviously a new moon is the beginning of the lunar cycle. So we're really focusing on the Cancer themes and the Cancer energies. And we've been talking about Cancer a lot. You know, what does it represent? It is cardinal water. It is very much about our emotional response of the way we feel. Because this is a new moon, we are working with the lunar energies, and Cancer's ruling planet is the moon. So we have solar lunar energies combined, they're blending together, they're supporting one another. And you know, this is the time to seed something, to sort of take advantage of that darkness and that stillness that sort of lies beneath the surface, in the dark space, in the void, in the womb space, and to really create something, to set intentions, to bring something forth. And of course we may have to wait to see it start to bloom and to come into being, but it is very much important that we set the intentions at this part of the lunar cycle. Of course, Cancer is all about the mother, nurture, nourishment, safety and protection are huge energies associated with Cancer. Having a sanctuary, a cave, a shell, somewhere to retreat to if we need to. And you know, given what is going on in our world right now, this feels absolutely perfectly, almost divinely timed for us to really focus on bringing in that sense of safety, connecting to those feelings and the frequency of home and safety. You know, not everyone is in a position at this point in, you know, what is unfolding in the world. Not everyone is safe physically, but for those who are, we can really tune in to that frequency and that feeling, and really start to, you know, contribute in energetic ways if we can't contribute in physical times and physical ways at this time. Again, that was a huge theme that came up in the solstice chart, the insight that was coming through, to really take advantage of the stillness, of the pause, and to be present, to really connect to you know, being present, being still, and bringing in a new sense of coherence, energetic coherence. So I'm going to show you the chart. There are a few things I want to pull up in the galactic chart as well. Yeah, let's just have a look at the chart now. For the new moon, we can see the moon and the sun are up here. They're in the 10th house, but disregard the house placements because it's going to change depending on where you are in the world. But we've got this strong energy of the number 4. We've also got Mars in sextile at 4 degrees of Virgo. And up here we've got, and this is Isis at 4 degrees of Gemini. So I'm going to bring both of these energies in. But if we just talk about the 4 very quickly, the 4 is a very grounding number. It is the number of foundations, of security, of creating structure. If we think, you know, a container, a square, a house all have 4 sides, 4 walls, and that really feeds into what I was saying about the fact that, you know, we are working very strongly with Cancer energy here, and it is, you know, the number of stability. We need 4 pillars to hold something up, to create a foundation. And, you know, it is when we feel safe and secure and protected that we can actually start to connect to how we feel about something, to be vulnerable, to connect to and tap into that softness that may lie beneath the harder shells, you know, where we've had to put up protection, where we've had to put up barriers, where we've had to perhaps shut ourselves off from the true reality of a situation or how we feel about something. Again, this is just making sure, because the new moon is in Cancer, and there's such a firm focus on and highlight on feeling safe, retreating into our inner world and connecting to our inner light. We can only do that if we really feel safe, and you know that we know that people are going to hear us and see us and honor us and accept us. So that is coming through really beautifully with this 4 energy. And you know, and Jupiter is at 3 degrees of Cancer in this chart. So Jupiter is such a big player in this new moon, expanding the energies of Cancer, expanding the lunar and the solar energies as they blend together and support one another, showing us that this new moon, if we really tap into it and harness its potential, has such huge opportunity and keynotes for growth and expansion. And for me, this is all about expanding your inner light, expanding your connection to how you feel about something, you know, not about trying to work it out in the head, but really connecting to your inner emotional field, your feelings, your field of feelings, and allowing that to really help you to grow at this time. Now, sextile to Mars in Virgo feels very beautiful. Obviously, sextiles are always about opportunities. We have to put in a little bit of effort if we can really get the most out of this aspect, but Mars is very supportive, and Mars in Virgo is very much about service, feeling strongly desirous or a strong will to serve in very practical ways. With Mars in Virgo, this is, you know, trying to find ways that we can help, that we can be useful, that we can find ways to be of practical use. And you know, again, I talked about in the solstice video, not all of us feel able to be of practical use, but this is about being able to hold space, because if we think of Virgo as a sign, this is mutable earth. This is about embodiment, but it's also about sacred service, about devotion, about purification, about refinement, about improvement, and also bringing order and alignment to energies that may feel completely distorted and out of order at this time. So Mars, Mars is saying and reminding us that this is one way that we can help, that we can be of service. So the fact that Isis over here is at 4 degrees of Gemini now in a square to Mars in Virgo feels very, very pertinent, very significant. Now, Virgo is very feminine sign. You know, Virgo is the Vestal Virgin, purity, chastity, and we have Isis up here. Now she is again another divine feminine, very strong priestess energy, goddess energy coming through. Strong connections to ancient Egypt, but most of all, you know, Isis represents loyalty, devotion and faith. She was so devoted to her husband that when he was set upon by his brother and murdered and chopped into many different pieces, and this is in the myth, she was able to retrieve all those dismembered parts and use her magical abilities, her spell casting, to bring all those parts together and to attempt to resurrect Osiris. So, you know, if we just sort of take the keynotes of that myth and that story and weave them together, as you know, as we often do when we're working with Gemini energy. Obviously, Gemini is about stories, it is about ideas, but it's also about scattered pieces, lots of different strands. And Isis here in the square to Mars in Virgo is a reminder that we are starting to bring all these dismembered, these scattered fragmented aspects of self and also different parts of the story together to try and bring some order through Mars in Virgo. And it might be challenging, you know, squares are always quite tricky and it might be really hard to make sense of what is going on. But Isis is there. She is completely devoted, very dedicated. And there is a sense that, you know, if we hold our ground and if we tune in to that more sovereign aspect of ourselves and maybe the more mystical and intuitive aspect, then we may actually be able to start to make sense of what is going on. So through here, especially, you know, this beautiful Virgo, this is about bringing all those fragmented aspects and scattered pieces of the self and coming back to wholeness. And the other expression of Virgo, which I have touched on before in other videos, is this idea of the body as a vessel or a chalice, a channel for which we can start to bring through the higher frequencies, the Christ consciousness energy, that devoted, sacred, beautiful, divine feminine energy. And again, with this square, it feels like that is what we're trying to break through to. That is what we're trying to remember. And we're trying to bring all those pieces together, and they have been scattered far and wide because the divine feminine was, you know, torn apart. Isis is bringing them back together. And Mars in Virgo, Mars is the divine masculine in this scenario, and he is really supporting that beautiful act of sacred, devoted service. And I'm just conscious that my voice has gone a bit croaky, which, you know, is quite interesting, especially as we're talking about Isis in Gemini, which obviously is the voice. So this may be a time when, you know, people are able to find their voice. Perhaps they didn't feel that they could before, but again, this is coming to the surface. And Isis is, of course, very close to Sedna at 1 degree of Aries. So Isis has moved past Sedna, but there is definitely something that has been retrieved from the depths, from the secrets of the ocean, that, you know, linked to mindsets, understanding, information, missing pieces of information are coming to light, and they are really helping us to bring some more order, some more sacred order into our world at this time, regardless of or in spite of what it looks to be on the surface. Now, the other thing I just wanted to bring into this particular video is the fact that Uranus is now at 29 degrees of Taurus, obviously, you know, making its way through now the final minutes of its current journey, its current time in Taurus, and is opposite Black Moon Lilith. Now, this is true Black Moon Lilith calculation, 27 degrees of Scorpio. And again, that just feels really profound, because Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio is really going into the depths to explore the shadow side, the part of self that has been hidden, but wants to come to the surface, wants to be heard, wants to be seen. You know, Black Moon Lilith is that raw, primal, wild, divine feminine aspect of self, the divine feminine consciousness that we all hold within us, regardless of our gender. And this is about her really going into the depths and facing those shadows. And Uranus in opposition in Taurus is literally shaking them out. You know, nothing can remain hidden. And as Uranus is at the anaretic degree, there are shocks and surprises coming through. There are going to be shock waves, particularly at a very physical level, because Taurus is fixed earth. We could be feeling it in our bodies. We could be feeling it and seeing it and witnessing it, as, you know, in terms of the earth and Gaia and her reaction. But things are coming to the surface. You know, there is nowhere to hide when Uranus is opposite Black Moon Lilith. And final thing I will just highlight very quickly is the fact that Chariklo at 21 degrees of Aquarius is in a beautiful trine to Atlantis at 22 degrees 55 minutes of Libra. And again, this feels really important, relevant. Obviously, Atlantis in Libra, you know, we are working with ancient civilization, ancient memories, ancient information, ancient knowledge. We're bringing it back in a way that is much more harmonious, much more balanced, much more equal. We're bringing equilibrium to a lot of very deep karmic connections that we all are carrying, or that many of us are carrying through connections to Atlantis. And with this beautiful trine to Chariklo. Now, she is the one of the centaurs. She was the wife of Chiron, so she has a very strong connection to healing. But she is Chariklo, deeply feminine. Again, it's the beautiful feminine energy coming through. She is a space holder. So rather than rushing in and interfering or trying to change anything, she acts as a witness. She holds the space. And that in itself brings about the most deepest healing, because sometimes that is all we need. You know, we don't need someone to come in and fix us. We don't need someone to come in and save us, but we need to be seen. We need to be heard, and we need to be witnessed in our truth of who we are. And Chariklo in Aquarius, this is witnessing humanity. This is the collective. You know, she is gentle, she is deeply compassionate, but it is very much about being present. And again, that ties in really beautifully to the solstice message, which is all about, and which was all about, being present, coming into that present moment, witnessing what is going on, but not necessarily feeling that you have to jump in and try and change it or fix it or save it or even heal it. The healing comes from the inside, and it's when we witness and we stay in stillness and we come into complete embodiment and the heart space that our sort of energies can come into alignment. We can access a much more powerful state of coherence and calibration, and that then ripples out and starts to shift our reality. And you know, I know, again, I think I said it in the solstice video, that just seems too easy, but sometimes it is about simplicity. And for so many of us, just being here, being incarnate, being physical at this time is the biggest gift that we can actually give to what is going on. Even though we might kind of want to change things, we might want to, you know, trigger huge changes at a very physical level. The way what I'm being shown is one of the biggest ways we can do that at this time, and this may change in the future, but at this time is to come into the state of coherence. And that change does happen within, and with this new moon, which is all about Cancer and coming home to the self, connecting to that inner light, that inner strength to create this platform, to create a foundation, you know, something that is going to feel safe, but is also going to be very stable through the energy of the four. That feels really kind of what we can do as the biggest act of service at this time. So yeah, this video is probably going on slightly longer than I expected it to, but there's just a couple of energies I quickly wanted to bring in from the galactic chart, and they are Sirius B. Now, Sirius B is conjunct the moon and sun, but it is slightly wider in terms of orb than we would normally work with. In a galactic astrology, we tend to limit the fixed star connections to 2 degrees, and this goes slightly further. I think it's 3 degrees, but it's close enough, and it feels relevant because Sirius B, you know, is bringing through all the ancient wisdom that comes through the Sirius signature. You know, this is a spiritual sun. It has been worshipped for eons of time, and it is reminding us of our connections to ancient civilizations, to times gone by, to connecting to that wisdom that so many of us are carrying, have been protecting as well. And of course, you know, with the new moon in Cancer, there is still this sense that, you know, we need to keep something safe. Something is very sacred, needs to be protected. But the question is it going to be time very soon for that to be revealed, for that to be released, for that to rise again to help us move forward? So, you know, you may resonate very deeply with that. I know that I have got those codes in me as well, of having to protect and keep something very sacred and very precious safe from harm. So there's definitely themes coming through there. With Sirius B, also we've got the connection to the water. You know, this is a water-based planet, very strong links to the mer people, to, you know, magical beings, to marine life, the dolphins, the whales, so all those beautiful energies, and that, you know, the oceans, the depths of the oceans, the secrets of the oceans, but also the connection to water, to its cleansing properties, to its ability to hold us. If we think think about the waters of the womb, that amniotic fluid, the information that is transferred through that, but also that safety, that safe space, that womb space that is coming through the Cancer new moon signature. And the other thing with Sirius B is if it's strong in the chart, there's often can be quite a lot of challenge when it comes to fitting in to what I would call normal society. People with strong Sirius B in particular, and this does apply for the stars as well, but Sirius B is a really good sort of indicator of someone that really does not feel like they belong here. And often those feelings can be really pronounced, but they are by design, because the whole purpose of coming somewhere where you don't feel you fit in, you know, that you feel different, you don't feel that you belong, you know, there's something wrong with you. It takes you within, it brings you back into the self, and it is a real sort of invitation, almost push, a force to really explore who you are. Why do you feel like that? Why do you feel so different? And that it makes you come in to really connect with who you are and really explore all these feelings. And when you start to remember who you are, and you remember that actually you're supposed to be different, and that, you know, this is absolutely by design, it's no mistake at all, and that your soul chose this, and there's a reason that you feel it's so different, and actually your difference is your superpower and your biggest gift and your biggest strength, then that is when things start to fall into place. And, you know, just as an aside, when I'm working with Galactic Astrology, one of the biggest sort of repeating pieces of feedback that I receive is that people just feel such relief to get validation of why they feel so different. You know, they're not crazy, they're not mad, they've been justified to feel the way they have, and sort of giving them that insight through connecting to their galactic chart and all the insight that it holds just helps them realize that they weren't crazy, and, you know, that and it helps them understand who they are, and that can be so liberating and so empowering as well. So there's a real strong sense of that coming through this new moon chart. Mars is opposing Fomalhaut, which is one of the 4 royal stars. Fomalhaut is the watcher in the south, very linked to Archangel Gabriel. To Pisces energy, obviously Mars in Virgo is opposing Pisces, but bringing this beautiful archangelic energy, high frequency, to support this sacred service that Mars is urging us to do. So we've got, you know, this watcher energy, one of the pillars, so that brings us back to, you know, the energy of the 4, the royal pillars, the royal watchers, the protectors. Gabriel being the messenger, so again there might be some messages coming through, you know, this might be channeled wisdom, very soft, very gentle, reminding us that it is important, you know, to be vulnerable, and that there is strength in vulnerability. And often, you know, connecting to our emotions makes us feel vulnerable because we've been taught to sort of put a brave face on, or, you know, don't don't cry, don't show how you feel. But this beautiful star is reminding us how empowering it is when we do express how we feel, and that it is okay to share how you feel and express that. At this time, this new moon in Cancer with Jupiter's energy really magnifying and expanding that. You know, this is very much about allowing those emotions to flow, allowing the tears to fall if they need to, honoring why you might feel extra super sensitive at this time. It's okay. You know, this is the chart we're working with. These are the energies we're working with. And this is really a lot, I feel, about cracking open, you know, where we have maybe felt frozen or locked in and unable to express how we think and what we think and how we feel. This new moon is helping us to connect to that and to be able to express, you know, you tap into that emotional intelligence, and that starts with understanding and recognizing and acknowledging them for ourselves before we can start to send them out and, you know, show other people how it's done. Now, the final star I wanted to bring into this reading is the fact that Mercury at 28 degrees of Cancer is very close to Alpha Monoceros, which is the unicorn star. Now, this is really beautiful because it just shows that Mercury is tapping into a much higher dimensional, much more multi-dimensional and multi-galactic energy through Monoceros. The unicorn energy, really playful, really magical, really mystical, but such a focus on unity consciousness. So Mercury is much further ahead than this new moon and Jupiter, but it's still pulling these threads in of belonging, of protection, of safety, of that foundation of processing and expressing and being able to speak and talk about emotions, speak out how you feel, because that in itself is really healing. It's really liberating. Even if it goes against everything we've been taught, this is a time when we're really, really being encouraged to talk and share how we feel, because we might just find that other people feel the same and they haven't dared to talk about how they feel. So this is, Mercury is reminding us that it is actually okay. And with this Monoceros energy, it's reminding us just of exactly what I just said about this unity. We are all different strands, we're all different colors, we're all different gifts, all different cultures, all different origins, but actually, we may all be feeling the same way at this time. And the unity comes through that connection to how we feel, the emotional connection and the emotional reaction to something. So that feels really, really beautiful. But again, the unicorn energy is trying to bring something in to lighten it up, to make it more playful, even though it doesn't necessarily feel playful at this time. And unicorn energy is here to really try and support us through that, to bring the rainbow frequencies in and to bring in some light-heartedness as well. So I'm going to leave it there. Again, that was a kind of snapshot, just sort of cherry picking different elements of the chart that I feel called to bring forward. I do work very intuitively, so I trust that what I have shared has been what is needed at this time. And I will bring the Shapley Attractor in just as we finish off this video, because of course Shapley is in a trine to this new moon. So while we're kind of working with our emotions, while we're trying to connect to the depth, to our inner light, and bring forward a new lunar cycle that is very sort of sensitive, deeply connected to the waters, to our inner light, to our sense of home, we've got Shapley in very supportive trine, reminding us that to really connect to our inner light and to find out who we are and what our home is and where our home is, we need to come back to the primordial, to the authentic truth. And Shapley will strip away any masks, any layers, any falsehoods, any illusion, or anything that is holding us back from connecting to that. So if you want to explore Shapley in more depth, I now have my brand new online course, Unlocking the Shapley Attractor in Galactic Astrology. I will place the link for that in the description box below. I've already had quite a few people sign up for it, so it's completely dedicated to the Shapley Attractor. It explores its signature, what it means in astrology, takes you through how to find it in the chart, all the different aspects that you may have with the Shapley in your own chart, and really goes into detail on how to interpret them. There are bonus modules on Sedna and her relation to Shapley, and so many of us have this connection with Sedna Shapley in our charts. There are almost also modules on shadow work, which again is a big theme when we're working with Shapley Attractor. So please do check that out if you're a galactic astrologer or you're interested in the cosmic points. And I will be back to talk about Uranus in Gemini very soon as well. So thank you as always for watching. Please like and share the video, comment if this has resonated, or let me know how things are sort of playing out for you at this time.